The Shir is Eile Nishmas, William and Helen, Rachel Bas Yosef, David ben Avraham, Tzvi Dav ben Chaim Pesach, Fred ben Richard, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Devorah Bas Yitzchak, Avram ben Mordechai, David, Reuben ben Shmuel, Shoshana Bas Elchanan, Chana Golda Bas Yisrael, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Chaim ben Fega, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Rachel Bas Yosef, Eliezer ben Yaakov, Chaim ben Gedalia, Zalman Leib ben Moshe, Chaim Eliyahu ben Yosef Moshe, Amichai ben Yaakov and Gedalia ben Tzvi Ruvain, Leila Nishmatam. Today's shir is how free is our free will? Okay? So you take a look at your sheets on side number 1. How do we know that we have free will in the first place? Right? So you look at side number 1 where it says paradox. You see that, Sarah? Side number 1 where it says paradox. This is a Mishnah, Masechta Avot, where it says paradox. The Mishnah Tezvav, Masechta Avot. The Mishnah says Hakol Tzafui, everything is foreseen, and yet Rashut Natuna, where it says paradox. The Mishnah Avot, everything is foreseen by God. God knows exactly what's going to happen before it happens, and yet Rashut Natuna, and yet every person has what? Free will. Which seems to be a paradox. If God knows what I'm going to do before I do it, so then how do I really have free will? So the Mishnah says, that's the way it is. Now the Rambam says on this Mishnah, in the footnotes, Be'er Mishnah Tezvav, the Rambam writes, this is one of the most important Mishnahs in Shas. To believe that we have what? Free will. That's the basis of Judaism. The Rambam writes that the Ikra of Yahadut is to believe in free will. So the question is, last time I checked on Imam in Sharon, it's not on the list, right? If the Ikra of Yahadut is to believe in free will based on this Mishnah, so how come in the Ani Mamins there's no free will? So the answer is, the Rambam deals with that question, and he says that that's the Amud of all the 13. In other words, you couldn't have any principles of faith, belief in the Schar V'Onesh, reward and punishment. If I didn't believe in free will, then what are the other 13 principles of faith? How could there be reward? How could there be punishment? Wouldn't be fair. If I'm a programmed robot, so it can't be one of the 13. Why, Nechama? It's before the 13. It's what the all of Judaism rests on the pillar of what? Of free will. That's the Iker. Because without belief in free will, you couldn't have any other Munah. You couldn't have any Iker. That's precedes everything. The pillar of everything is the belief in free will. And yet God knows everything. So it seems to be what? A contradiction. So the Rambam deals with that, and he doesn't deal with it. He says there's a pasuk in Isaiah, Kilo machshavotai machshavoteichem. God tells Isaiah, my thoughts are what? Not your thoughts. V'lo dachechem derachai. Somehow it works out. Even though we have free, even though God knows what we're going to choose before, we still have free will, even though it seems to what? Contradict. We'll work that out hopefully later in this year. But if you look at the bottom of side number 1, how does the Mishnah know we have free will? I'm from Missouri. Tell me, right, Yechiel? So I hope everybody has a paper on side number 1. How does the Mishnah know that we all have free will? So at the bottom of side number 1, in my handwriting, there's a pasuk in Devarim Lamid. God says, Natati lefanecha habracha v'aklala. I give you the blessing and the curse. Ubacharta b'chayim. You see that? Yeah. Yonatan, the bottom of side number 1. In my handwriting, Deuteronomy 30, God says, Ubacharta b'chayim. What does that mean? Choose life. It's our choice. God pleads with us to choose life, but it's our choice. So this is the pasuk in Devarim 30 that every person, every human being has what? Free will. Now, further on, the bottom of side number 1, in my handwriting, God makes a wish. Umi yitain. God says, what would I give? V'hoya levavam liyira oti, if only the hearts would fear me, v'lishmor et kol mitzvotai, and to observe all of my mitzvot, kol hayamim, all of their days. God says, for my benefit, L'man yitav lahem livneim lo'olam. It should be good for them and their children's forever, is to observe the Torah. God says, mi yitain. What does mi yitain mean? Onkelos translates halavai. What does halavai mean? If only. If only. God says, what would I give if only my children would listen to me? Not for my sake, but l'man yitav lahem, l'vneim lo'olam. But God makes a wish. Does God get his wish? Not always. Not always he doesn't get his wish. Right? It's up to us. He can only plead with us to b'charta b'chayim, but again, the choice is what? The choice is up to us. Our choice. So how free is our free will? Was Paroi born evil? Remember that song? Born to be wild. Who sang that? Was Pharaoh born to be evil? Huh? What? He chose it, right? So how come God hardened his heart? Doesn't seem to be fair, right? So how free is our free will actually? So let's take a look at the side number 2, if you turn over the paper. Side number 2, where it says, can our free will defy God's will? So this is the Rambam Hilchas Tshuva Halacha Gimel. On page 26, Halacha Gimel, on the right side it says 26, right? Halacha Gimel. The Rambam says here in Halacha Gimel that it's possible that a person can what? Lose his free will. Use it or lose it. Halacha Gimel. The efshe sheyachta adam chet gadol al chatoyim rabim. Yiddish. It is possible a person can sin a humongous sin or many other sins as sheyitein hadin lifnei dayan o emet. I'm reading Halacha Gimel. Until midat hadin decides sheheya paraon mizeh achote al chatoyim elu she'asa b'tzoyna midatoi shemani menu atshuva. Part of the punishment of sinning non-stop, you can go past the red line. And part of the punishment is that God takes away what? Free will. And even though you want to do tshuva, sometimes, Nechama, it's too late now. It's too late. Yiddish, what?
Too late for Pharaoh.
Too late for Pharaoh, right? Part of the punishment is that what? That the person, the Rasha, loses his free will, and even if he wants to come back, it's too late. But he got there on his own. No one made him do that. He chose to become a mean, evil machine, so the punishment is that he loses his free will. Now, why should that be? Why is that midah keneged midah? The Rambam explains, not here in Moreh Nevuchim, he explains that we are created in the image, the Tzelem Elohim. Now what does that mean? God has no physical. One of the Ani Mamins is that God is not physical. So what does the image of God mean? It means what? Freedom of choice. Thank you, Rabbi Yaakov. It means that we have freedom of choice. When a tiger or a lion decides to attack a deer or an antelope, is the tiger or lion making a moral choice? No. It's instinct. Right? It's not a moral choice to attack that antelope or that human being. It's instinct. The only creature that has moral free choice is the human being. That's the Tzelem Elohim that we share with God. To choose morally between right and wrong. Right? When Tony the tiger eats a person, lo yaleinu, he's not being evil. It's instinct. He looks at a person and he sees what? A Big Mac. Big Mac. So the Rambam explains, Rav Avraham, that Tzelem Elohim is the Bechira Chavshis. But the Rambam says if a person stops living like a human being, he's so corrupt and immoral and degraded that God takes away from him the Tzelem Elohim. If he lives like an animal, becomes an animal. God removes the Tzelem Elohim, which is what? Bechira Chavshit. It's Midah Keneged Midah. God gave us the gift of the Tzelem Elohim in a human being, but if you can be so evil and cruel and corrupt that you lose your humanity, so God says you don't deserve the Tzelem Elohim. You act like an animal, become an animal. An animal has no freedom of choice. You hear that? Midah Keneged Midah. And that's exactly what happened to Pharaoh, yes?
Isn't there that is a famous incident where there, I don't know, was a Roman general or something, a Roman Babylon, he murdered so many Jews.
The Buzaradan.
And then at the very end of his life, you realize he made a mistake.
Avram Berkowitz, who asked, you hit a home run. You hit a home run. The Talmud, he bases loaded. That's a grand slam he hit. I think he just knocked me out of the box. Because the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that in Buzaradan, you know who Buzaradan was? The chief executioner of Nebuchadnezzar. He did tshuva. He became a Ger Tzedek. So how come he did? He became at the end of it, he became a Ger Tzedek, the Buzaradan. How could he convert to Judaism when doesn't that seem to contradict the Rambam's principle that a person can lose his free will? That's a great question. He murdered many Jews. So actually, this question I asked Rav Shas Cohen about 20 years ago. I beat you to it, Avraham. 20 years ago, I asked that question to Rav Shas Cohen. Okay?
So who was he, Rabbi?
He was, remember Adolf Eichmann? He was like Adolf Eichmann in the Chorban Bayit Rishon. He was the chief executioner under Nebuchadnezzar. So how could he convert to Judaism? And the halacha is that if a non-Jew murders a Jew and converts to Judaism, he's still chayiv mitah. He's still chayiv mitah. So I asked Rav Cohen this question. He says that this was a yotzei min haklal. Okay? Every rule, this is an exception to the rule. Okay? This is what he said. I know the kasha is much better than the teretz, but he told me this was yotzei min haklal because from him Rab Meir had to come out. The great sage Rab Meir had to come out from him, so in his case God made an exception. You hear Rav Cohen told me about 20 years ago. I beat him to it, okay? Looks like he knocked me out, but I asked this question of Yaakov 20 years ago. Rav Shas Cohen, the great Lamdan, he told me this is yotzei min haklal because from him Rab Meir had to come out, the great sage, Stam Mishlik Rab Meir, so in his case God had to what? Make it overrule himself, Kavayochel. Because someone murders Jews when he's a non-Jew and he converts to Judaism, he's not off the hook, he has to be executed. This is yotzei min haklal because the great sage Rab Meir had to come out from him. Yes?
How is the person supposed to know where that red line is?
Oh, so we're going to go to that, Rev Yaakov. Don't rush me. That is in Halacha Daled. Now we're in Halacha Gimel, okay? We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, so in Halacha Gimel, Kidei sheyamus v'yareh b'chetoi. So the punishment is he loses his Tzelem Elohim. What's another name for Tzelem Elohim, Avram, according to the Rambam? Bechira Chavshit. Free will. Conscience. Right? Your conscience. And Tony the tiger has no conscience, right? So, it doesn't only happen to non-Jews. Yiddish Rav Avram, God told the prophet Yeshayahu, Hashmein leiv ha'am hazeh, Hashmein leiv ha'am hazeh. Make the heart of this people fat. What does that mean? Spiritual cholesterol. Now everything in the physical world, Nechama, has a spiritual counterpart. If there's physical cholesterol, there's certainly spiritual cholesterol. God tells Isaiah in chapter 6, Hashmein lev amazeh, hear this, v'ha'oznav hachbeit, and I will what? Make their ears heavy. Right? The Einav Hosha, and I'll give them spiritual cataracts. Spiritual cataracts. Sarah, I'm not making this up. Look, Isaiah 6. If there's physical cataracts, lo yalein on somebody's eyes, there's certainly what? Spiritual cataracts. Yeah. Why? Pen yira be'einav. You see that? I'm reading above the line, it says Yeshayahu Vav, right? Pen yira be'einav, halacha gimel I'm reading. Pen yira be'einav, ba'oznav yishma, u'levava yavin, v'shav rafalai. God says it's too late for these people. They're so immoral and corrupt. I'll give them spiritual cholesterol. I'll give them spiritual cataracts where they just won't be able to see the truth. Pen yira be'einav, the truth will be so in front of them, and they'll still insist on a two-state solution.
I knew you were going to say that.
This is exactly, don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is what? Made up. This is part of the punishment. A person can cross a red line where God says that I will make him spiritually blind, where he won't be able to do tshuva. And this is Shayo Vav. Avram, you have this page? It's Shayo Vav. See, I'm reading Halacha Gimel where it says Yeshayahu Vav in the middle of Halacha Gimel. V'cheinu Aimer. And he quotes another pasuk. I'm reading in the middle of Halacha Gimel. Vahi malivim amlachei olehim. Those people that humiliate the messengers of God, ubozim devarav, and despise his words, umetatiim b'neviyav, and they mock their prophets, ad alos chamas Hashem ba'amo, until God's anger, the word chamas, is against his people, ad la'ein marpeh, and they won't be able to get cured. Kolomar, chatu b'ritzonam, these Jewish people in the days of Isaiah sinned willingly, v'hirbu l'pshoah, and they did so many sins, until the Midas Hadin decided that what? They can no longer do tshuva. It's too late. They just don't get it, and they just cannot see. If the truth is staring them in the face, they'll go down with the sinking ship. Shua marpeh. What's the cure? Tshuva. Now we get to Paro. You see that in Halacha Gimel? Lefikach kosu b'Torah v'chizakti et leiv Paro. I hardened and strengthened the heart of Paro. Why is that fair? See Shmos Yudalid in the middle of Halacha Gimel. Shmos Yudalid. Lefi shechata me'atzmo tchila. He sinned on his own. The Hera Yisrael Hagorim Ba'artzo, and he's the one that decided to do evil to his people, the Jewish people. Shenema Hava Neschakmalo. Therefore, Nosan Hadin Limnoa Tshuva Minenu. Therefore, the Midas Hadin decided that part of his punishment is what? To remove. He can't do tshuva anymore. He has to self-destruct. That's part of the punishment. But no one forced him to become what? So evil and mean and cruel. Lefikach, therefore, chizek HaKadosh Baruch Hu et libo. Therefore, God strengthened his heart in order to get the punishment he deserved, even though he wanted to do tshuva, but he blew it. So if that's the case, Velama, see it says Velama underlined there. You have it, Yehuda? Velama? Velama hoya shaleach lo biyad Moshe. So if that's the case, if God took away his free will, Beryl, you have one here? Velama hoya shaleach lo biyad Moshe b'shalach v'asei tshuva. So why is God wasting Moses' time? God hardened his heart, and yet he continues to send what? Moses. Let my people go. But he couldn't let the people go. Yiddishlingi. Why is he wasting Moses' time with the message of let my people go? God already told Moses, Ein ata mishaleach. God already told him, you are not able to let the people go.
Could have made the book shorter.
Huh?
Could have made the book shorter.
Why is God playing with Pharaoh?
Jewish people should see.
Should see what? So Pharaoh becomes a patsy? Why waste Moses' time when God already told him, Ein ata mishaleach? You are not willing to let the people go. Shenema, God tells him in Exodus 9, Va'ata v'avodecha yodati, ki terem turim nei Hashem lakim. God tells him through Moses, Exodus 9, you and your people, God says, I know, you don't fear God. V'ulam, but, ba v'zoysim araticha, so why am I keeping you standing for? Why not just nuke you? Ba v'haroischas koichi, I want to show you my power. Ulaman saper shmi b'chal aretz. You will become a byword to the whole world. God says, I want to impress my Jewish people, so therefore I'm making you what? A patsy. An example. Ulaman saper shmi b'chal aretz. God needs the publicity, Sarah. That's what it says, Exodus 9. I'm keeping you standing to demonstrate my power, to impress the Jewish people, and to make my name famous in the entire world. God needs fame, Chava. What's going on? What's the message? Kidei lo'idiyah l'bo'olam. What does God want to let the people know? Shebizman shemenei HaKadosh Baruch Hu atshuva lachote eino yochel loshuv. The reason this is, he's not just playing with Paroi. God, Golda, wants to demonstrate to the whole world, be careful. Don't go there. You don't want to wind up like Pharaoh, where you become a robot, an evil robot, and too late to change. So therefore, the Torah writes this as a Musar Haskel. How do you say that in English, Avram? A Musar Haskel. It's not ancient history. To warn the people, do tshuva. You don't want to wind up like Pharaoh and the Egyptians where it'll be too late. That you can't do tshuva. Top of page 27. See top of page 27? It says 27 in the left corner there. But you got there, side number 2, 27. See, it's not just Pharaoh. See that Yehud on top of side 2 where it says 27? V'chein Sichon. Remember Sichon? Lefi avonot shehoyalo. Sichon. When the Jews on the way to Eretz Yisrael, they conquered the land of Sichon, the Amori. He did so many sins. Sichon wanted to do tshuva, but God held it back. Shenemar, it says in the Vorim Bet, Ki hiksha Hashem elakecha ruchai imitzavavai. God hardened his spirit and his heart, but he couldn't do tshuva. See, it says the Vorim Bet. See that? The Vorim Bet, third line from the page 27, the Vorim Bet. V'chein ha'knanim. And the same thing with the ancient Canaanites here. When Yeshua ben Nun conquered the land of Israel, there were Canaanites living here. Lefi ta'avoiseyem mona mehem atshuva. They did so many abominations until God took away the chance to do tshuva. Atshos Mechom Yisrael. Shenemar, the Canaanites wanted to surrender. But, Reb Nachum, it's too late now. There's a pasuk in Joshua 11. Ki me'et Hashem hoita lechazek et libam. God hardened their hearts of the Canaanites. Likras ha-machama et Yisrael. They knew they're going to get defeated. So why did they go fight? Leman hachrimam. In order to what? To annihilate them. Yiddish? Yeah. So God gave them this death wish that what? It's too late. They can't do tshuva. Their punishment is to lose their free will and to be annihilated by the Jewish people, even though they wanted to surrender. Frightening that a person can what? Use it or lose it. And it's not just the non-Jews. V'chein Yisrael b'mei Eliyahu. You see that? V'chein Yisrael, page 27, V'chein Yisrael b'mei Eliyahu. Not just in the days of Isaiah, where God gave the Jewish people spiritual cholesterol and, Yonatan, spiritual cataracts, not Cadillacs, spiritual cataracts where they couldn't see the truth, right? Some people just don't get it. They keep insisting that Abu Mamzer is a peace partner. Are you blind? They can't help themselves. Abu Mamzer is a peace partner, after all, right? Even though he sends millions of shekels every month to the family of terrorists. And the more Jews you kill, the greater is what? The compensation. But no, Beryl, he's still a peace partner. They can't help themselves. Can't help myself.
We can't seem to help ourselves from calling them a peace partner.
V'chein Yisrael b'mei Eliyahu. In the days of Eliyahu, the Jews were so evil, Lefi shehirbo lepshoa, because they did so many chatoyim, mana me'otam hamarbim lepshoa tshuva. God again denied those transgressors from doing tshuva. Shenemar, it says in the book of Kings, Malachim Aleph, Eliyahu Novi says to God, Va'ata, and you, God, hasibota es liba machranit. You, God, made their hearts go backwards. God, it's your fault. I think it's called blame the victim. Beryl, blame the victim. Instead of blaming the Jews for their wickedness, who does Eliyahu blame? God. God, you took away their due tshuva, koloimar. See, there's a check cover. Koloimar, the check there. Manata mehem tshuva. What are you punishing the Jewish people, God? They want to do tshuva, but you deny them the opportunity. God, it's your fault. Yiddish? So why is it fair? Nimtzeis oimer. So it comes out, says Rambam, Shaloi gaza el al paroi l'harei. So God never decreed that Pharaoh has to what? Do evil to the Jews. V'lo al sichoin lachtoi be'artzoi. And God never said that Sichoin should be such a rasha. V'lo al knanim lahativ. And God never said that the Canaanites should be what? So evil and abominable. V'lo al Yisrael avodah zarah. And God never decreed that the Jewish people should worship avodah zarah. Elu kulam chatu me'atzmam. They all sinned on their own. V'kulam nischayvu limnoi mem tshuva. And therefore, the Midas Hadin decided that part of their punishment is what? Deny them their tzelem Elohim. You live like an animal, you become an animal. An animal has no free will. Free will is tzelem Elohim. So it's midah keneged midah. So how do we know when you get there? Rabbi Yaakov, halacha dalid. See halacha dalid? I'll wait. Page 27, halacha dalid. Ku'inyan zeh sho'alim atzadikim anavim b'tfilos meis Hashem. You know, righteous people are always self-conscious. They're always afraid that what? They're sinning. So tzaddikim and prophets always begged Hashem, don't let me go there. You hear this? Incredible. K'moy she'omar David HaMelech himself, Sharona, was afraid that he might have crossed the red line with the sin with Bathsheba. Chil Hashem, even though she had a get, but you know, people didn't know. It was Chil Hashem. David HaMelech was afraid. He says in Tilim Pevav, Hareini Hashem darkecha. Hashem, show me your ways. Ahalech b'amitecha, let me walk in what? In your truth. See, he says Tilim Pevav, Sarah. Tilim Pevav, halacha dalid, koloimar. See, it says koloimar on the line. Koloimar means what? In other words, al yimno'oni chatoyai derech ha'emet. Don't allow my sins, King David says, to what? To prevent me from finding the derech ha'emet. What's the derech ha'emet? Tshuva. King David was afraid that he blew it. If King David is afraid, Beryl, what should I say? Don't allow my sins to prevent me from finding the true path to tshuva. King David says in Psalm 51, Ruach nediva tismecheni. With a ruach nediva. How do you translate the Rivka? Ruach nediva. A spirit of what? Of nediva, that I should have free will. Support me. Kalaimar. In other words, King David says, Taniach ruchi lachsas chafatzecha. Allow my spirit to do your will. Va'al yirgamali chatorai. And don't allow my sins to cause me to what? L'me'eni mitshuva, to prevent me from doing tshuva. Eloti arushus biyadi. Let free will remain in my hands. At she'echzor va'avin ve'eda derech emet. Until I what? Understand and find my way back to you, Hashem. So even King David was afraid that his sins would cause him to what? Cross the line. Everyone has their own line. My line is not your line. And Pharaoh's line was not my line either. Everyone has their own barrel spiritual thermometer. Everyone is unique.
That's why there was a television show, What's My Line?
What's my line, right? So the Rambam is saying no one caused Pharaoh to become an evil machine. No one caused the Mitzrayim to persecute the Jews. They chose on their own, and therefore Midas Hadin decided that their punishment is to what? Self-destruct. Now the Rambam, you don't have it on your sheets, but he goes on to say that this seems to be contradicted. Didn't God tell Abraham, your kids will be enslaved 400 years? It looks like 400 years ago, God decreed that the Mitzrayim should what? Enslave the Yidden. Genesis 15. He just got through saying God never said the Mitzrayim have to be evil or Pharaoh. They chose on their own. But Rav Nachum, wait a minute. If you look at Genesis 15, God tells Abraham, your kids are going to be enslaved and persecuted for 400 years. So what do you want from the Mitzrayim? Aren't they just following God's orders in Genesis 15?
No, plan A and plan B.
No. And what do you want from the Yidden who worshipped Avodah Zarah in the days of whom? Eliyahu and Yeshayahu. Deuteronomy 31, God tells Moses, when you die, these people of yours will rise up and worship Getchkis. Deuteronomy 31. So God is prophesizing that later on in Jewish history, days of Isaiah and what? Eliyahu, the Jews will worship Avodah Zarah. So it looks like God is decreeing that the Jews have to worship Avodah Zarah. So why should they get punished? That's a bomb question that he asks. And he answers, God never mentioned anybody's names. He says the people will be enslaved. He doesn't mention even Egypt. Could have been Micronesia. He doesn't. In Genesis 15, he says the Jewish people will be enslaved and persecuted. He doesn't mention which country. It could have been the Philippines. Doesn't say Egypt. And when God says the Jewish people are going to worship Avodah Zarah, does he say Yankel Shmerel? God is speaking in general terms. He doesn't mention anybody's name. A person has free will. You don't have to be the one that's going to worship Avodah Zarah. You don't have to worship Avodah Zarah. God is just saying what's going to happen in general terms in Jewish history. But God never decreed that this person should be a tzaddik harasha. And the same thing with the Mitzrayim. The same thing with the Mitzrayim. God said the Jewish people have to be enslaved. He never mentioned Tutankhamun's name. Didn't have to be Ramesses. Every one of those mitzvim that persecuted the Jews, he didn't have to do it. He did it on his own. God never mentioned any person's name. God never takes away a person's free will. He takes away the free will himself by his own wicked behavior. So God is just prophesizing in general terms. But again, he gets back to the problem. He gets back to the problem. If I really have free will and God has foreknowledge, how do I really have free will? So he says, there is no human being that can understand this contradiction. As God tells Isaiah, my ways are not your ways, my thoughts are your thoughts. We have free will, and yet God knows how we're going to act before I choose. It seems to compromise my free will. If he's going to know, if he knows beforehand, standing outside of a McDonald's, and I smell the delicious cheeseburger wafting through the air, and I'm debating, should I walk in or not? If God knows beforehand whether I'll walk in or not, then how could I choose otherwise? How do I really have free will? The Rambam says you still have free will, and somehow it's not a contradiction. Because the way God knows something is not the way we know something. The Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim says, I am me and I possess knowledge. So me and my knowledge are what? Two separate entities. God and his knowledge, doesn't say God has knowledge. God and his knowledge are what? One. See, we have past, present, and future. To God, past, present, and future is all the same. So no human being can fathom that. But the Ralbag, he has a different interpretation. In last week's Parsha, do you remember that we just read, when was it, yesterday? Yesterday, it wasn't that long ago, right? In last week's Parsha, God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, he gives him the sign where the stick turns into a snake, or is it the snake into a stick? Which one is it?
Stick into a snake in the back.
Thank you. And his hand becomes leprous. And God says, if they don't listen to you with the first sign, then they will listen to you with the second sign. And if they don't listen with the second sign, then take some waters from the Nile River, spill it on the ground, and it will turn into what? Blood. So the Ralbag says, how could God say if? Who says if is a stiff? God says to Moses, if they won't listen to the first trick of the stick turning into a snake, then show them the second trick, your hand turning leprous. And if they don't listen to the second trick, then take some water from the Nile, and it's going to turn into blood. Doesn't God know whether they'll listen or not? What do you mean if? How could God say if? In Exodus 4, God says, Im lo yaminu. If they won't listen to this sign, they'll listen to the second. And if they won't listen to the second, they'll listen to the third. How could God say if?
To Moses.
How could he say that to Moses if? God should have said, I know they'll listen to sign 1 or 2 or 3. He doesn't say that. He says, if they won't listen, then the second. If they won't listen, how could he say if?
Because Moses' mind is limited.
But how could God should have said to him, they'll listen to the first trick or the second and third. If God knows the future, and of course he does, then why does he have to tell Moses if they won't listen? And maybe they'll listen to the second, and maybe the third. What's the maybe? You hear the question?
He constricts his knowledge.
Oh, beautiful. Tzum. So says the Ralbag, now we have to get Kabbalistic. I'm over 40, we can talk. So now we got to get Kabbalistic over here. How did God create the universe? You know, God is the entire universe is God plus. How could there be an atom or an amoeba besides him? God is everything. His light is everywhere and everything. How could there be an atom or an amoeba besides him? So the Kabbalists speak, Ray, of a process called tzimtzum. In English, you call that pull back or restrict. Therefore, it's called outer space. Give me space. Don't a teenager say, hey, Dad, give me space. In order for the universe to exist, God had to give me space. How does he do that? By pulling into himself, kaviyachol. By restricting and limiting himself, he made space for what? You and me and you. So that's called tzimtzum. All Kabbalists agree on that. In order for the universe to exist, God had to limit and pull into himself, restrict himself, otherwise there couldn't be even an amoeba, let alone a human being besides God. Tzimtzum. The Ralbag takes this a step further. He says, God loves man so much, in order not to limit and interfere with my free will, God also practices tzimtzum regarding my bechira chavshis. Because if God would look into the future and see how am I going to choose, will I walk into that McDonald's or not, then how could I act otherwise? Somehow it's limiting my free choice. If he knows beforehand how I'm going to choose, doesn't that yichil limit my free choice? I mean, how could I act otherwise? So the Ralbag says, therefore, God also practices tzimtzum with regard to my bechira chavshis. Just like he practices tzimtzum to create the universe, where he pulled back and limited himself, kaviyachol. So the same thing, not to interfere or influence my free will, not even one iota, God also practices tzimtzum when it comes to bechira chavshis. So therefore he can tell Moses, if they won't listen to the first sign, then try the second sign of your hand turning into what? Lepers. And if they won't listen to the second sign, then take some water from the Nile and turn it into blood. God practices tzimtzum, not to interfere with our free will. He purposely says if he doesn't want to look into the future. And therefore, by Akedat Yitzchak, after the Akedah, God tells Abraham, now I know you're a God-fearing man. Chanoch, what do you mean, now I know? Didn't God know yesterday? Before he tested him, didn't God know whether Abraham will pass the test or not? So how could he say, now I know you're a God-fearing man? So Rabbi says the same idea. Not to interfere with Abraham's free will, God, Kaviyachol, restricted his foreknowledge. I'm going to test you, Abraham, and I don't want to know how you're going to do. Keep me in suspense. You know that? No, that's not that. God purposely, maybe ties it in, but this is why he says, now I know you're a God-fearing man, because yesterday I didn't want to know, because otherwise it would somehow be restricting your free will. If I know beforehand whether you'll pass the test or not, then how could you fail or pass? So this is the Ralbag's answer. Tzimtzum, even when it comes to Bechira Chavshis, so after the Akedah, God says to Abraham, now I know you're a God-fearing man. Yesterday I didn't want to know, because I didn't want to restrict or limit or interfere one iota with what? Your free will. Yes?
Didn't he do the same thing with Moshe Rabbeinu when he was asking him to take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim?
Right.
You do it, you do it.
Right.
Moshe wouldn't do it until God said, I'll be with you.
Right. Same idea.
He pulled himself back so that Moshe would...
Right. But let's say Moshe would refuse, like Yudah saying, let's say after a week Moshe still would refuse. There got to be a plan B, right?
Because they're
Then he would call it, right, plan B.
But he wanted him to not say, I will do it. He wanted him, just like Joseph said, I'm not interpreting your dreams.
Right,
but
God does it. God does it, right?
And Moshe says, I can't take them out without you, God.
That's right.
So he waited.
He waited, right?
So God said,
Right.
okay, now, you know, you're the right man.
But
You
for
waited for me to say,
Nachon,
thank you.
Nachon, yes, yes.
Rabbi Sprecher and the whole Chevra. I just need to share something about what's my thought wave right now so that I don't go into some sort of schizophrenic tangent.
Go ahead.
When the Torah talks this way, it's very science fiction. It's almost like watching a Star Trek episode where Kirk and Spock land on a foreign planet.
Yeah.
They have technologies and abilities that the primitives don't have.
Right.
They're able to use their communicator. This is like, okay, so Hashem turns, a stick into a snake, and we have these miracles in the Torah.
Right.
That trip our brains out. Now, life itself can trip our brains out.
Right.
That we exist from a speck of nothing, and then
Right.
everything. It's also a big miracle.
Nachon?
And my mind just, when it is a child growing up, I would read those stories and I would go, I don't believe that. If as a child somebody said, my mother had a book by the size of her table, and it said, you came from a dot this big,
Right.
a pencil dot. As a child, that's more amazing than a stick turning into a snake.
You're right.
And I just needed to share that with you.
Nachmanides makes your point, Yoel, very succinctly. Is that the right word, Avram, succinctly?
Yeah.
He asked a rhetorical question. What's a bigger miracle, Rav Nachum? Sunrise, sunset, or splitting of the Red Sea? Now you would ask me, I'd say splitting of the Red Sea is a greater miracle. But Nachmanides says no. No. Splitting of the Red Sea happened once in 6,000 years. But sunrise and sunset happens every day. Can you imagine the sun would rise and set once in 100 years? You can imagine the excitement, CNN and Fox News. The sun is about to rise. The sun is about to set. Once in 150 years. Wouldn't people be excited, Megimia? Right? Because it happens every day, you should be more excited. But human nature is you get fatchadet. How do you say that in English? Fatchadet.
Jaded.
Jaded, thank you. Same one, jaded. Fatchadet means jaded. Human nature is you become what? The thrill is gone. You get used to it. But says, Nachmanides, think about it. The sun rising and the sun setting. What a beautiful sight to see the sunrise. Remember that song? Sunrise, sunset. Just because it happens every day should make it more miraculous. But human nature is that you lose what? The excitement. The thrill is gone. But who says, like Yoel said, who said it's any less miracle? Tchiat HaMesim is a great miracle, right? But I think, like Yoel said, the birth of a child, you take an egg fertilized by sperm, and that grows into an entire human being. Is that any less miraculous than the resurrection of the dead?
Especially today.
An egg with a sperm becomes a human being? Is that any less miraculous than what? Than Tchiat HaMeitim? But we're used to it. But we're used to it. The Maral says in the Midbar, what bracha did the Jews make on the man? Hamotzi lechem min hashamayim. Hamotzi lechem min hashamayim. So that's a great miracle, right? Says the Maral, wait a minute. Taking a seed of grain, putting it in the ground, letting it rot and decompose, and out comes what? Wonder bread? A seed rots in the ground, it decays, and what comes out of it? Delicious wheat, right? Who said that's any less miraculous than man from heaven? Well, we're used to it. For them, man was nature. Hamotzi lechem in hashemayim, hamotzi lechem in oretz is just as spectacular. The problem is we get jaded. The trick in life is to become what? I'm so excited not to lose the thrill Remember that song? The Thrill Is Gone. B.B. King. B.B. King. The thrill is gone. But you got to psych your way up. The thrill should not be gone. You should be excited. You wake up every morning and you see the sunrise and the sunset. You should be excited about it. Wow. That's a challenge, right? Not to become jaded. Right.
You gotta read my blog.
That's right. Not to become jaded, right? Yes?
I'm afraid now we're talking about two different subjects.
Go ahead.
One is the thrill is gone and things like that.
Right.
The other that you were approaching before had to do with God's knowledge before something occurred.
Right.
That's a different subject.
You're right.
Right?
I got a little sidetracked.
Okay, no, that's a good side.
Put me back on the track.
No, but the question of God's knowledge beforehand is
Right.
extremely difficult.
Very difficult. But you like the Ralbag's Chiddush with Tzimtzum?
All right, fine, but
God voluntary blocks it out.
no, but I think it's something that as believing Jews, we just have to accept that there are things we cannot.
Well, that's the Rambam's explanation.
Okay?
But the Ralbag says, what am I, chopped liver? I have also an opinion to say.
I don't think there's anything more that can be said about it.
Okay?
Either we accept it or we don't.
But I like the Ralbag's explanation of Tzimtzum. What's hard to accept that? Huh? That God loves man so much, he's willing to limit his foreknowledge, not to interfere one iota with my free will. That's how much God loves us. We practice Tzimtzum by Briyat HaOlam. Why can he not practice Tzimtzum by Bechira Chavshis? That's our Ralbag's taina. The Rambam says we don't know. We don't know because my ways are not your ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts. So the Ravid said, if you don't know, why bring up the question? The Ravid has a taina on the Rambam. Rambam, you don't know, so why propose the question? The Ralbag says he does know. Okay? Ayin panim l'Torah. Who said that? Ayin panim l'Torah. 70 faces, and they're all equally true, right? Any other questions? Yes, Yoel.
Well, I just want to point out the beautiful answer, thank you. And I think in a way you tapped into the pardes, the remesh, the drash, and the sod
Right.
of the stick turning into the snake. You know, I mean, this thing, you know, I just sent my mother a text of what happened 49 years ago in Miami, Florida.
Right. Isn't that miraculous?
A link to say, look, 48 minutes into this class, something you did in 1967
Right.
just an effect. Is that any less of a miracle?
How does the internet work? We take it for granted.
It's the pardes of this whole place.
50 years ago, people would say the internet, what?
Yeah.
They think you're off the wall, right?
Magic.
It's magic. We don't think about
Speak
it.
to somebody, you can see you on the phone. Cell phones, like Dick Tracy, I think.
Right? It's amazing,
I think.
right?
I think when a parent knows
Yeah.
a child eventually will call and say, Mom, Dad, you know, I really appreciate all you did for me. We know that they're going to say it.
Right.
But all the way through, you know, they have their free will. But still, when that day happens and they call,
Right.
the parents are so happy.
That's right.
The same way Hashem.
Hashem, that's
even though
right.
he knew-
Nachas. Hashem wants nachas from us, right, Mickey?
even though-
Nachas? How do you say that in English?
Yeah, even though he knows that we're going to call and say. thank
Right,
you.
but when it happens,
When we do it, he's
we
so
make
happy.
his day.
Yes.
Thank you very much.